notice that the word Nahual means disguise or mask. And the Nahua people, they call themselves the Nahua, which derives from Nahuali, which is a form-changing shaman. So literally they name themselves after shamans, which is of course right, because the shamans have the highest wisdom. So it would be right to name yourself that. And it would be right to name your language that. And of course, a shaman is always going into disguises and wearing masks. And this symbolizes the fact that that's what God is doing. So the reason that the shaman is wearing masks and various disguises and is considered like a shapeshifter is because Teotl, or God, is a shapeshifter. And that's such an important metaphor to understand why God is so difficult to understand. Because God is shifting its shape all the time. And as a shapeshifter, you might think, well, but what is God's real form when it's not shapeshifting? When God isn't being a tree or a mountain or a cloud or a car or a woman or a man or a dog, what is God's true shape? And the mindfuck of it is that God has no true shape at all. God's true shape is no shape. And when you think about it, that's brilliant. It's actually an ingenious design because look, if you wanted to really be the best shapeshifter you could be, so to speak, you would need to make yourself totally empty. Because if you weren't totally empty, there would be some part of you which disrupts your ability to take on some shape totally. Right? Like you couldn't totally become a tree because there would be some part of you, some essential nature or form that you had, which is getting in the way. For example, you as a human being, if you want to be an actor, the problem with that is that you have a certain form that you have, and so you can't really be the best actor you can be in a certain sense, because like, a man can't really play an effective woman in a movie unless he's just doing like a parody. And a white man can't really play an effective black man, nor vice versa in a movie, right? Because like you'd have to get rid of your whiteness to be able to fully embody blackness. And you'd have to get rid of your blackness to fully embody whiteness. And you have to get rid of your femaleness and your maleness and whether you're a short actor or a tall actor, that limits what kind of roles you can play. But the whole genius of God is that it's not limited to that. So therefore it literally is completely empty. And then it can take all forms and all shapes. And that explains why God is so difficult for people to find and for people to grasp with the mind, is because the thing you're trying to grasp is the fact that God is the shapeshifter. And then, of course, right now, it's shapeshifting into you and shapeshifting into me. And what's happening right here, even though it looks like it's a man over here sitting talking to a camera and you over there, either a man or a woman sitting there listening to me, making sense of all this, although it seems that that's what's happening, actually, this is God's mask. This is God's disguise. This is God's performance art. And you need to be able to be smart enough to see through that, which requires consciousness and intelligence, which few people have. And so therefore, when they're told about God, they think, oh, God is just a belief, just some fantasy. But what you don't understand is that you got to be conscious of what's going on here. You know what it's sort of like? Pointing out God to an atheist or to a materialist is so frustrating because they're so dense. It's almost like we go to a rainforest and there's like a beautiful chameleon sitting on a branch or a beautiful owl sitting on a branch. And I'm walking through with you and you're the atheist or the materialist and you've never seen one of these owls or chameleons. And I point to it and I say, look at it. There's the owl. There's the chameleon. There's the butterfly. But because your eyes are not accustomed to looking through the camouflage of the chameleon, of the owl, of the butterfly, their camouflage is so perfect that they completely blend in with the jungle. And so you look at me and you say, Leo, what are you, stupid? What are you, crazy? What are you, insane? You're hallucinating. There's no owl there. There's no chameleon. There's no butterfly. It's just the jungle. It's just a tree. It's just a branch. It's just a leaf. But of course, you would be able to see the butterfly or the chameleon or the owl if you spent a lot of time just observing them. in this jungle. But because you're here for the first time, you can't even believe. It's outside of your realm of belief and possibility that there could be this amazing owl sitting right a few feet away from you and you can't see it. It's like, Leo, there's no such thing as owls. Well, there's not for you because you haven't spent enough time observing these owls because they're so well camouflaged. God is the perfect chameleon. It's able to perfectly camouflage itself. And so it's pointless, in a sense, to ask for evidence of God the way that materialists do, in the same sense that you can ask for all the evidence in the world of an owl that's camouflaged on a tree branch. But unless you're able to grasp the outline of the owl, I'm pointing to it. The evidence is there. You're being pointed to the evidence all the time. The evidence for God is everywhere all the time. You're so deeply immersed in it, that's precisely why you can't see it. You have to be able to sort of grasp it or groke it at once. You have to go, aha, oh, that's what this is. Oh, yeah, that's the owl. Oh, yeah, that's the chameleon. Oh, yeah, that's the butterfly. I see the butterfly. See? And the mistake that the materialists make is that he says, oh, Leo, but you need to provide proof. Prove to me that that's an owl. It's like, no, I can't prove to you this is an owl. You got to be able to see it to see the owl. So I love this metaphor. For me, this is my favorite metaphor for God, is that God is a shapeshifter. This explains why God is so deceptive, why God is so tricky, why it's so confusing, why your own mind prevents you from being able to see it, because that's the whole thing we're dealing with here. And of course, in Hinduism, this notion is known as Maya. We're talking about Maya here. So notice all these interconnections between the Aztec descriptions of God and also many of the Eastern ones. And of course, in the West, they have the notion of the devil. You might think, well, Leo, but the Christian God isn't deceitful. In a sense, it is, because in the Christian God, there is the devil in the Christian conception of God. And the devil, of course, is a trickster and a shapeshifter. So that is sort of the devilish nature of God. God has this devilish side to him, which you could call Maya or the devil.